All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, coming up next, we're going to talk to an end-of-life doula who works with families during the last stages of life. But for those of you who are joining us in progress right now, this is Rocka What You Got Live. It is our virtual expo. It's being live streamed on Facebook, Channel 6, and Roku. So let me talk now with Jane Whitlock. She is an end-of-life doula. Thank you so much for joining me, Jane.
Thanks for having me.
I think I've heard you on NPR, if not once, maybe a couple of times.
I'm a little bit of a Carrie Miller call-in stalker.
Oh, well, hey, you know what? We all have our thing in life. That's a good one to have. So tell me a little bit about how you became an end-of-life doula.
So I was sort of thrust into this work, like I think most other people. My husband, when he was 49, was diagnosed with kidney cancer, and he had it for about 4 months before he died. And I, like so many other people, had zero experience about death. I had no idea how it happened. I had no experience with grief or what grief looked like. And while I felt incredibly supported by hospice, there was a big piece missing for me that I couldn't name until like a year or so later, that it was like, oh, there was this education piece around this experience that would have really helped me to be more calm and more in the moment and less anxious. So I found out about end-of-life doulas and thought that's what I am supposed to be.
Well, tell me, what is a doula allowed to do, and then what is a doula not allowed to do?
That's pretty easy. A doula is non-medical, so they are not allowed to do anything with diagnosing or medicines or have really any role in the treatment. That's all medical, and hospice is really a great partner for us in that. We are allowed to give emotional and spiritual and physical support to the dying person as well as their caregivers. We use the word holding space to describe what we do, and it really is making this container around the family and making sure they can get connected to this experience in front of them. So whether that's kind of talking them through their anxiety of the moment, or whether it's recognizing that they're exhausted and they need a break, or maybe they need a good meal, it can be a lot of different things. It really depends on the family, what kind of support we can give them.
And what kind of training do you have to become? Is it a certified doula, a licensed doula?
Right. At this point, there's no national accreditation. So you can come to this work through a lot of different avenues. I think there's lots of people who have been in hospice their whole lives, and when they retire, they want to become a doula so they can have the time to spend with the families and caregivers that isn't kind of dictated by Medicare. So life experience, you can come to it. You can do trainings. There are trainings sort of sprout up like mushrooms across the country, and they all have a different focus. So I always encourage people who are interested to volunteer at hospice first. That is your number one starting place. And after that, if you realize, oh, you know what, I need more help with the spiritual angle. I'm a little I have death anxiety myself that I haven't resolved around my own mortality. So I'm going to find a training that addresses that.
So during this time of COVID-19, are people reaching out to you? And if so, what are the questions that they're asking you?
You know, as soon as COVID-19 hit, I offered my services to the hospice that I frequently volunteer with. And I have had one person take me up on the offer, which does not surprise me because we are a culture that doesn't like to think about this stuff ahead of time. And then once you're in it, it's too late. Because actually, when Rob was dying, a friend of mine from Seattle was trying to get me to hire a death doula. And I was like, no, I can't take on one more thing. So I think what we could offer people that call is, you know, so much of this is happening virtually. You made a big plan about how you were going to care for your mother or your father, and all of a sudden you can't get there. So what can we do virtually to create community, give support, maybe give tools about how to connect with each other at this time? I'm a grief companion as well. Lots of doulas are, which is not a therapist, not a counselor, but just someone who understands the process and can normalize it for people. So I had a man in New York City call. He was 91, had just lost his wife of 60 years, and he's going to have a big gap between the death and when he can have a funeral. So I talked with the family about what are some rituals that we can put in place to help you all while your grief is sort of on hold. You know, like they can do a Zoom conference call and they could all make an altar for this woman with a photo and, you know, flowers or a house plant and candles, and they could all share things about her, and they could keep their candles going until they can have that funeral.
Mm-hmm.
So
gosh, wonderful things to offer up to a family, especially, you know, we've been through this ourselves this past year, and there was quite a gap between a death and when we were able to have our celebration of life service. So that really gave us some time to kind of sift through this, but we didn't have the separation of being home and not being able to be with other people.
Right, right. And I think death is susceptible to people feeling regret about a lot of different aspects. And so now here, this is just, I feel for all these people who are going to have to go through this because it's going to be complicated and we're not good at grieving anyway. I mean, one thing I want to say is as death educators, we're always hammering that drum. Like, we're all going to die. Think about it. If you think about it, it will actually make your life better. And of course, no one listens because we have sort of impenetrable shells. But now here we are in this world where everyone's shell has been cracked open. We are all grieving the loss of jobs, the loss of maybe creative opportunities we were working on, the loss of going to school, the loss of freedom. So we are all grieving. So it's this opportunity to sort of name it for people to acknowledge it in their own lives, and for people to develop a practice to feel that and be with it. Because I truly believe that grief is transformational. It makes us better people. It makes us kinder, softer. And so this is this opportunity for literally our whole world to be transformed. Sort of profound.
I believe you've worked with Kathy Wurzer and her End in Mind project. And so I know that she is a big proponent of families planning. Is that something that you can also help families deal with when they really get down to it and they really need to put together a plan?
Right. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because we are all down to it right now. Okay. Like, no matter how old you are or what your circumstances, you are down to it. So do a living will. Maybe you do 5 wishes or honoring choices. Put together your file of passwords and logistical information somebody is going to need to sift through. Write letters to people that need to have letters. Put all that file in a place where everybody knows where it is, and it will reduce your anxiety going into this. I think if COVID happens the way people are projecting, things will happen fast. So now is your time to do that stuff and to think about it. And, you know, I have parents who are 91 and 89 and they live in a senior living facility. And I had to have a hard conversation with them. Like, if it gets to the point where you do get sick and our healthcare system is overwhelmed and you are likely not to get the service of a ventilator, besides the fact that maybe they're too old for a ventilator, might do more damage than good, would you rather just take your chances and stay home in this facility that has nursing, and you could seamlessly transfer into hospice and you could get the comfort medicine that you need? Which option do you want? Because I really need to know. We need to have these conversations with our elders now.
Hard conversations, but loving conversations at the same time.
And you know they're thinking about it. We're all thinking about it. So it's our superpower to relieve anxiety, to bring that grief out in the open. Also to give us an opportunity to say goodbye. I mean, and we say people think goodbye is like a sort of door slamming shut. Really, it's not. It's just an invitation to go deeper into our relationship with people. And it doesn't mean it has to be the end. It's just you're acknowledging the truth that already exists between you. It's an opportunity.
Thank you for sharing all your heartfelt wisdom and knowledge and some of the things that you've gone through that has brought you to this far in your journey as a death doula. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Okay, can I say one thing I think I forgot to say? I'm a member of the Minnesota Death Collaborative, which is an awesome local resource for people who are facing these issues. You can find professionals, education, resources for everything you're going to need when you're thinking about these issues.
And this is an excellent way for us to wrap up. Thank you so much for sharing that. We really appreciate it. People can find you on Facebook, and you also have a .com. So tell us where we can find you there.
There's the MinnesotaDeathCollaborative.com, and I am DeathDoulaJane.com.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much again for joining. All right. And Rock What You Got continues in just a moment.